Today I want to review Saint Anything by Sarah Dessen. Side note, this book was sent to me at my request from Penguin in exchange for an honest review. This particular story follows a girl named Sydney. She lives in an affluent neighborhood with her family that, like a lot of other families in that neighborhood, they try and look like they have everything together. They try and look like the perfect family, but this is certainly not the case. Sydney has an older brother named Peyton, who over the last few years has been on this very self-destructive path, and it culminated in him driving drunk and hitting a boy on a bicycle and crippling the boy. So Sydney's brother is now in prison, and her family is no longer this perfect family who puts all of their time and energy into their successful, charismatic son, Peyton. Now it's just Sydney and her mom and dad. And Sydney's always sort of taken a backseat to her brother, but now that he's in prison, she's having to deal with the fallout from that. And she decides that she's going to change schools. By doing so, she ends up meeting a girl named Layla and her brother Mac, and eventually Layla and Mac's entire family. And they sort of take her in a way. Not that she doesn't have a place to stay with her own family, but she finds her home life so depressing that she spends a lot of time with Layla and with Mac. And as many of you will know, Sarah Dessen's novels often have a love interest in them, and in this case, Sydney has her eye on Mac. In this story, we follow Sydney's relationship with her parents, her brother, with her new friend Layla, with Mac, with other students that she meets at her school, as well as some other people that come in and out of the story, including a friend that her brother made after he was recovering from his first few episodes of self-destructive behavior. And we just see their dynamics and see how their choices affect the other people that they know, the other people in their family. I have not read many Sarah Dessen books. I've only read this one and one other one. So I can't really say how this compares to the rest of her novels, but as far as contemporary young adult, I do feel like this is a very good book. The reason I think that is because this focuses on some heavy topics. It doesn't feel light and fluffy. As I mentioned, Sydney's brother's in prison for something awful that he did, so that's one dark storyline that we have. We have the presence of Ames, her brother's friend, in their home because Sydney's mom finds him supportive and likes talking with him about what happened and what they can do for Peyton now that he's in prison, whereas Sydney does not like him at all, and she gets a very bad vibe from him. Mac and Layla's mother is suffering from MS, and so that is another important storyline. And then we just have the day-to-day struggles of students in high school who are just trying to get by and get through the day-to-day. When you combine these together, it makes for a really compelling story. There's always a few different things happening. It doesn't feel like the entire story is about Sydney and Mac's relationship, which, by the way, has a very natural progression. By the time it started to be evident that Sydney had feelings for Mac and Mac might have feelings for Sydney, I supported the relationship. And I really appreciate when that happens, especially in a young and adult book, because insta-love is very much a factor in a lot of books these days, and that's just usually not the case. 99% of the time, it is not somebody walks into a room and you immediately fall in love with them. Just not really realistic. No book is perfect, and one of the main issues I had with the book is the fact that Sydney is kind of a trope in the sense that a lot of YA novels, the main character is kind of boring and plain, and that can be done for two reasons. One could be that the book is told from Sydney's perspective, so she is always looking at other people and finding the goodness in them. We know all of the little quirks that Layla has, that Mac has, that Mac and Layla's sister Rosie has, the funny things that their dad does, observations that she makes about her mother and her father and other friends that they have at school. The other reason that could be is that a lot of times YA novels purposely have a very plain and kind of boring main character to make the reader find something in that character that they see in themselves, so the character has to be kind of bland and a little boring so that maybe the reader can relate to them a bit more. If they get too specific with details, the reader might not necessarily connect with them on the same level. So I can understand why that kind of happens, particularly in young adult. In this case, it was really noticeable. Sydney doesn't have any interesting hobbies. She has one TV show that she's very attached to that sort of becomes her support system while her parents are dealing with her brother and she's feeling very alone. And she is made more interesting by the friends that she has and the people that she spends time with. It's not because Sydney has anything that she's particularly interested in that really makes her personality or makes her more exciting to read about. It's the other people in the story. So that's one thing that I didn't totally love. The other thing is that there are definitely some very typical lines, anecdotes that are written into the book. There's not too many of them, but they are there, and I often cringe when I read them because they're so overdone and overused. But that being said, it didn't take away too much from my reading. I still cared about Sydney as a character, and I still cared about a lot of her friends and the other people that showed up in the story, whether it was good, like Sydney and Mac's relationship, or Sydney's friend Layla and what her, how her life was going and what Mac and Layla's mom was going through. And then other times it was because I was angry at the character, like Sydney and her mom. Their relationship is kind of strained in a way that I think her mom doesn't even see because she's so preoccupied with what Peyton's going through. And then there were points where I was actually getting goosebumps and feeling really uncomfortable for Sydney because of this character Ames and him being in the house and just being one of those creepy people. Everybody knows those people that just, they have a bad vibe. Ames is one of those people. It almost had a little bit of a thriller feel to it at times because he was around a lot, and that was kind of fun. Not something I usually feel when reading contemporary young adult. Getting to experience this range of emotions and caring about different characters and hating different people and feeling scared and also happy. I love the fact that I was able to feel all of those things with this book. I decided to give it 4 out of 5 stars because it is a strong contemporary young adult book, and the characters are interesting, people you actually want to care about. The relationship feels real. The development of Sydney's relationship with her brother as well was something I really appreciated, something I wasn't actually expecting to kind of work out how it did. So you add those little elements in there, and this book is worth your time. If you are looking to read a strong contemporary young adult novel, maybe you're looking to pick up another Sarah Dessen book, or you're looking to pick up your first Sarah Dessen book, I would strongly recommend this read. I know there are many of you out there who have read Saint Anything. It came out a while ago now, and I've only just gotten around to reading it recently. So, but I'm sure a lot of you have read it and you have things you might want to say or comment on. Try and keep it pretty spoiler-free down below because there are people out there who I know have not read it and will probably watch this video for interest's sake. As always, all of our links are in the doobly-doo. Check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.